So let's talk about physical activity and how that relates to what we've all done around quality of life. Some of us have already mentioned it as part of our things that are important to us, and but also relate it to people who are living with dementia and the difference that can make to their lives. This resource pack here, I'm hoping that some of you in the room have seen it. Have you? Any hands up? Yeah, okay, a few. The resource pack was developed by the Care Inspectorate and the British Heart Foundation National Centre, and it was launched, what year are we now? It was launched last year, I need to say that, in March 2014, and it was issued to all care homes for older people in Scotland. So if you're from a care home for older people and you don't have one, please say now, so we can get some out to you, but hopefully it is familiar to you. So what we're going to do first of all is going to do a little bit about physical activity and the importance of it before we talk about the resource pack in the next wee while. So have we got any physical activity experts in the room? Do you see me about to fall on the floor there? I was going to say, here you are, take the mic. Okay, well, I'm sure we are all experts to a degree because, you know, it's very simple. It's just about moving a bit more often. And I was listening to something actually just this week. In fact, I know what it was. I had a relook. I don't know if any of you looked at on YouTube, 23.5 hours. Have any of you looked at that clip? I can't remember the consultant's name. I think it's David Evans, but it doesn't matter. Because if you just Google 23.5 hours, it'll pop up. And it's a really lovely few minutes of him talking through cartoons about the most important thing to health, and that being physical activity. And what we're not talking about here is a marathon, which I'm sure some of you in the room may have done, but I have never achieved. We're actually talking about walking. And walking maybe half an hour a day, and the difference that that makes to you, your physical being, and to things like diabetes, coronary heart disease, and loads of research about that and the difference that that makes. So physical activity, really important. And the thing is, the benefits extend into later life. Whoopee! You know, so what we do now, although we have to keep doing it, it actually does benefit us in later life. It benefits people living with dementia hugely, and we're going to talk about that a bit more just in a couple of minutes. And actually, do you know what? The evidence, the research evidence is getting stronger and stronger. I'm involved in the dissemination group of some research at Glasgow Caledonian University, and it's research around understanding sedentary patterns of behaviour, rather a mouthful. But basically, there's lots of information now and studies that are happening about the importance of standing up once an hour. So those of you who do not, like I used to, I do try now to stand up once an hour, even if it's just to go to the photocopier, then I would encourage you to do that, because it's now being shown that if we get up off our backsides once an hour, that actually we change things physiologically. And just in doing that, we will actually be less likely to have things like long-term conditions. It's not a big ask, is it? And I know what it's like, sitting at my desk, getting engrossed, or sitting in a car, driving to a meeting for hours, on a plane, on a train, whatever it might be, or watching a movie. So there are strategies that can help us. So although we're talking about older people, and those people that we support and care for, it is important for us too. And it's important for us to model that behaviour in around the people that we work with. So set your mobile phone to get up every hour, or when your mobile phone rings, answer it standing up. Or maybe in the evening, put the remote control by the telly so that when you want to change it, you have to get up. Wee things like that, you know, or you'll get couch potatoism and you'll be stuck. So think about that. Really, although I'm making a bit of a joke about it, it's really, really important. I was doing a session at a care home in Perthshire a few months ago. I was asked to come along and work with the relatives, some residents, and some of the staff in the care home, and do basically a bit of what I'm doing today around physical activity. And it's interesting because the administrator plays golf with my husband, and he was out on the golf course with him a week or so later, and he says, "Oh, you need to tell Edith, I have absolutely got up every single hour from my desk ever since she told me about that, because it made such an impact." So I don't think it was about me. I think it was about the facts and the figures and the research that's out there. So hopefully some of you will take that on board. And important for those people that you're caring for, that you encourage them to move in some way often, and that they're not sitting in a chair all morning, or they're not lying in their bed. If they're able to move in some way, then it's important to do that. So is it important? Well, I'm hoping you're getting the message. It is important. And I'm hoping that even if you thought it was before, you're thinking it's even more important now as we're going through this session. But loads of evidence there, and it's not just about physical, it's about everything about us. It makes a difference to that. And those of you that are up to date around falls prevention, you'll know that in care homes particularly, that people are 3 times more likely to fall than if they're living in a home in the community that's not the care home. And obviously if we're more physically active, we're less likely to have falls that are going to injure us. Yeah, we may fall a bit more often, but we're less likely to have injurious falls or die from falls. So really important to encourage our older people to be active. So, and the next part of that slide there talks about all things like reducing anxiety, depression, being a bit more independent, but our function actually improving. So if we're more active at the end of the day, we might actually be able to carry out a few more tasks for ourselves, like cleaning our teeth, helping to dress, all of these things, and that's very much about dignity and the importance of that. So, a few points there just for you to think about. Okay, so what about for people living with dementia? Well, there are several studies out there that tell us, and there are more and more studies coming out telling us of the importance of that. And it's very important in terms of helping those people living with dementia to continue carrying out activities of daily living for as long as possible. So if they are encouraged and supported to be more active, then they're more likely to be independent for longer. And the research is there to back that up. They may have improved cognition, which is obviously a huge thing for those folks, to actually be able to feel that they're able to cognitively function a bit better. And then, of course, because of all that, if there's a caregiver, then that person's going to feel much better about things as well when they see that that person's much happier. And obviously the same as for all of us. These next points there on the slide, people will sleep better, they'll have better appetite. For those people who are perhaps further on in their dementia journey, then we may find that there are less issues around behaviours that challenge us and things like that. So really, really important. And then, of course, there are less complications because we're more mobile in terms of constipation and all of these lovely, yucky things that are up on that slide there. So what else does it do? We've already said about social contacts, and that's the same and so important for people living with dementia, that they actually stay socially connected. Now that could be with family and friends, it could be with clubs, it could be going to the local pub, it could be going to the local hairdresser, down, hanging out with a local fisherman, it could be going to a particular group like Archie does. Whatever it is, it's really important to keep active, to be able to stay socially connected, to get outside. And often I think that we don't make as much use of the outside as we could. And up on the island here, what a great opportunity to do that. Maybe you all have great stories you can tell me of using outside space, I hope so. But I think I certainly know there's lots of places across Scotland where there are opportunities for people to get outside, but it's not necessarily happening. So it's just such a therapeutic thing for people to do. Today we're talking about physical activity, and I thought I'd just define that a little bit, what I mean by that today. Now on your left side, it's not a great picture, is it, up there? The colours are a bit mushy. On the left side, activity. Now can you see what the people are doing in the slide up there, those of you that can see past me? It's probably pretty obvious what that means, isn't it? So what do you think? Organised activities, would you say? What do you think they're doing? They're playing some sort of board game, aren't they? So that's what that means. So it's maybe, board games, or maybe indoor bowls, or whatever it might be that's organised as an actual activity. On the other side here, on your right, we've got exercise. Now that could be, have people got exercise programmes that go on where they work? Anyone got anything like that happening? Yep. It could be the physio's exercise programme for somebody, whatever it is. So it's organised, it's set, it happens at a certain time every week, blah, blah, blah. What I'm talking about today is that bit in the middle there, which is that everyday thing that we can all do really easily. And if we think about it, actually, we can make it happen a lot more often than it probably does at the moment. So it's that day-to-day stuff, making it the norm. Okay, so it might change the way we work a little bit, but actually at the end of the day, it's going to be more beneficial for the person you're working with and actually more beneficial for you. Much more satisfying because that person's going to be able to do so much more for themselves. Now, I am realistic in that I realise many people struggle to do anything for themselves. And there are others that can do quite a lot. But the message is about doing a little bit, even if it's just a small bit, and doing perhaps a little bit more every day. So it's these day-to-day things which might be standing instead of sitting when you're washing your hands and face. Or it might be that somebody, instead of getting wheeled to the dining room table, can actually walk part of the way or all of the way. Or it might be that you reorganise your dining area in your care home or wherever you work so that people find it more easy to take these few steps to the table. Or it might be that you discover that somebody really, really enjoys going outside and feeding the birds. So as you discover that, that's a way then of encouraging them to be more active so that they can get up and they can do that. And that might be their goal. That might be the way that you encourage them to be a bit more active every day. And I've heard loads and loads of lovely stories from care homes who do that sort of thing and who are telling me the difference that it's made. Certainly there's some work going on in Aberdeen just now in some care homes there, a couple of care homes there, and the stories are quite dramatic. Almost hard to believe of the difference that's been made in people's lives when they've started to do a bit more for themselves. So what sort of physical activity are we talking about that we need to do in relation to people living with dementia? Well, there's no sort of international guidelines. We've got these guidelines and that's it. But what we need to do is we need to try and do something that's going to encourage more oxygen to the brain, so that kind of aerobic kind of stuff. Now, we're not talking about, step classes or anything like that. We're just talking about getting up and moving and getting that oxygen circulating around our bodies a bit more. Strength and balance. Okay, so let's do something here. Okay, can I ask you all to stand up? And if you can just get into a position where your chairs are just kind of behind you, all right? Okay. All right. Now, if any of you have struggled with this, then please feel free not to do it, all right? But if you can do it, then please do it. So what I'd like you to do is, chairs are behind you, and just make sure you're not going to land on the floor, because that wouldn't be so good. And what I want you to do is sit down, but not just sit down. I want you to take as long as possible to get down onto your seats. Really, really slow. Now, you've got a sore knee, so be careful. Okay? Start moving down, but take as long as possible. Okay. You do have to start bending.
I'm going to be here all day.
Okay, and have a seat.
I can go really slow.
Okay. Have a seat. Thank you. Okay, so did you start to feel it in these big quads here, in your quadriceps? Yeah. Okay. So if you don't know, what you just did was you did some strength exercises there. Now, what you could do is you could get up again and you could do that again. So we could do that 5 times, and that would be a really, really good way of doing some strength exercises. Now, can you think of people who you're caring for that could perhaps try that? Yeah. And the difference that would make to them, even doing that once every couple of days, would be huge in terms of their ability to mobilise, to stand up on their own, and they'd be less likely to fall. So simple, isn't it? Okay, can I ask you to stand up again? Okay, if you can get into a position now where if you need to, you can put your hand on the back of your chair. All right? Okay. So, what I'd like you to do now is not a pirouette, but if you'd like to, please do, is actually just to stand on one leg. Now, those of you who have not got great balance, you can just touch the top of your chair. Okay. And really what we should do is probably count to 5, but I'm going to fall over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pop your leg down. All right? And then we're going to do the other leg, so stand on your other leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pop your leg down. Okay. And now you can have a seat. So what you've just done now is you've just done some balance exercises. And obviously you have to be sensible about who you're doing that with, do your risk assessment, etc. But it's amazing how people can do that they could hold on. It would depend what they're able to do. Might be have to hold on with 2 hands. It would have to be, obviously done appropriately. And you could do that. So you could do that up and down thing on one leg, which I'm really bad at because I've got dodgy ankles. You could do that 5 times on each side. And there you are, you've done some balance exercises. And strength and balance is just so, so important.